All right, chapter 20 of the book of Numbers. This one is actually furthering the story forward finally. So we're not quite talking just about ordinances or rules or guidelines. We're actually getting into the story a little bit more. This is it's pretty interesting. This Numbers chapter 20 is probably one of the most referenced or quoted chapters out of the book of Numbers. All right, so Miriam dies. Moses smites a rock at Meribah and brings forth water. The king of Edom refuses to let Israel pass peacefully through his land. Aaron dies, and Eleazar becomes the high priest. So, some fun things to talk about. All right, verse 1. Then came the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, into the desert of Zin in the first month. And the people abode in Kadesh, and Miriam died there and was buried there. So now they're back in the desert. They're wandering through the desert, and there are several rebellions, if you remember, when they were in the desert again. That was not uncommon, unfortunately, for Israel, the children of Israel, to try to rebel against Moses, and so he had lots of these to deal with. Miriam, of course, is Moses's older sister, and she was the one that was in the reeds on the side of the bank of the Nile when Moses was a baby and was found by the Egyptian princess. And let's see, verse 2. There was no water for the congregation, and they gathered themselves together against Moses and against Aaron. So here's another one. Now the people are mad. They're dehydrating. There's no water for them out here in this desert. Verse 3, the people chode with Moses and spake, saying, would God that we had died when our brethren died before the Lord. Which is, remember, when the rebellion of the priests, the 250 priests and those things, basically. Some of them were burned, some of them were swallowed up in the ground. Now they're going, man, I wish I would have died with them, because now I'm going to die this long death of dehydration. Verse 5, wherefore have you made us come up out of Egypt to bring us in unto this evil place? It is no place of seed, or of figs, or of vines, or of pomegranates, neither is there any water to drink. And Moses and Aaron went from the presence of the assembly unto the door of the tabernacle of the congregation, and they fell upon their faces, and the glory of the Lord appeared unto them. So they're going to seek revelation. So continuing revelation is very important to the children of Israel. Verse 7, the Lord spake unto Moses, saying, take the rod, gather thou the assembly together, thou and Aaron thy brother, and speak ye unto the rock before their eyes. It shall give forth his water, and thou shalt bring forth to them water out of the rock. So thou shalt give the congregation and their beasts drink. That is what God told Moses to do. Gather everybody together, pick up your staff. Remember, staffs are often seen as a symbol of power and their authority, basically. Take it with you, and then speak to the rock and tell the rock to give up its water, and it will. And then everybody can drink. So that's what God told Moses to do. So let's verse 9. And Moses took the rod from before the Lord as he commanded him. And Moses and Aaron gathered the congregation together before the rock. And he said unto them, hear now, ye rebels, must we fetch you water out of this rock? So he says basically, look, you bunch of crazy people that keep rebelling, are you wanting me to get water out of a rock for you? We, meaning Moses and Aaron. Okay, so the problem is again, he's kind of taking how this is translated. It sounds like he is like they're mad at him, and he's like, are we going to have to do this for you? Instead of realizing it's God that's going to do it for him. Verse 11, Moses lifted up his hand, and with his rod he smote the rock twice, and the water came out abundantly, and the congregation drank, and their beasts also. So Moses did not speak to the rock. He did not keep the commandment he was given. He didn't follow God's instructions. He hit the rock twice with the staff instead. It still brought forth the water for the people. And there's lots of speculation as to why, a rock smoke. Could it be just a miracle that this happened? Could there be a spring that maybe that rock was damming up or holding back on, and now there's a spring? Now that the rock was smote or separated out, the water could come out. There's a lot of speculation ideas, and if you've heard some of these or have ideas on that, feel free to put them in the comments. What do you think is the scientific explanation for how the water got out of the rock, basically, if you have any ideas? But the thing that's important to realize is Moses is pretty mad at these people. He's kind of said, "I'm going to have to do this for you," kind of thing, rather than realizing it's God that's going to do it for him. Uh, and then he didn't follow all of God's commandments. So there's a problem here for Moses. Verse 12, and the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron, because ye believed me not, to sanctify me in the eyes of the children of Israel, therefore ye shall not bring this congregation into the land which I have given them. So they have been chided now. Moses and Aaron have been chided because they didn't follow the commandments properly. They didn't do things properly. They're not going to the promised land, basically. They're not going to be part of that. So there's a quote here, and this is out of the Old Testament Study Guide, that they said at least two other Old Testament passages indicate that Moses did sin in striking the rock at Meribah. That's Numbers 27, 12 through 14, and Deuteronomy 32, 51 and 52. Other passages, however, help to clarify the matter. Deuteronomy 3:26 and 4:21 indicate that the Lord told Moses that the reason he could not enter the promised land was that the Lord was angry with him for your sakes. Meaning, basically, he wasn't a good thing that the Lord was mad at him, basically, but it was more of, look, you need to repent. We need to go through this process to help you to be clean from the errors that you've made. This statement could imply that there were reasons other than the error of Moses for the prohibition. Two other factors strengthen this supposition. First, both Moses and the higher priesthood were taken from Israel because of the people's unworthiness, not Moses's unworthiness. Okay, you can look at D&C 84, 23 through 25. So Moses and the higher priesthood, Melchizedek priesthood, was taken from the people because of the people's unworthiness, basically. Second, Moses was translated when his mortal ministry was finished. That's Alma 45:19. The Book of Mormon gives us some insight. In other words, Moses was privileged to enter a land of promise far greater than the land of Canaan. He had finished his calling in mortality, and a new leader was to take Israel into the promised land. And Moses was translated, hardly a punishment for sinning against God. So even though he had some penance to pay, he went to heaven. He got translated. He didn't just die and his spirit separated. He was translated. So he kept his body. So he had not necessarily, in a way, you think about it, he got the better end of the deal. But that's why they were not allowed in. So Moses, we know eventually he won't go in, and Aaron won't go in either into the promised land. Verse 13, this is the water of Meribah, because the children of Israel strove with the Lord, and he was sanctified in them. All right, 14, and Moses sent messengers from Kadesh unto the king of Edom, thus saying, thy brother Israel, thou knowest all the travail that hath befallen us, how our fathers went down into Egypt, and we have dwelt in Egypt a long time, and the Egyptians vexed us and our fathers. And when we cried unto the Lord, he heard our voice, and sent an angel, and hath brought us forth out of Egypt. And behold, we are in Kadesh, a city in the uttermost of thy border. Let us pass, I pray thee, through thy country. We will not pass through the fields, or through the vineyards, neither will we drink of the water of the wells. We will go by the king's highway. We will not turn to the right hand nor to the left until we have passed by thy borders. So they're at this place, the land of Edom, okay, and they're saying, we would like to pass through your land. We're not going to go through your fields. We're not going to ruin any of your crops. We're not going to eat any of your food, drink any of your water, interact with your people. We're just going to walk straight through the land, and then that's it. Now, the thing to realize is Edom is another word for Esau. These are the children of Esau, okay, which is the brother of Jacob. So these are descendants. They're relatives, long relatives, basically, like a third or fourth cousin, once removed type thing from Israel. So they are relatives, distant relatives of Israel. And he's reminding them, you know what we've been through, what we've experienced. We're just trying to get to the land that we were promised. And we just need to pass by your land to get there. So let's see what the king of Edom says. This is verse 18. And Edom said unto him, Thou shalt not pass by me, lest I come out against thee with the sword. Warning him, if you go through my land, we'll kill you. Verse 19, the children of Israel said unto him, We will go by the highway, and if I and my cattle drink of thy water, then I will pay thee for it. I will only, without doing anything else, go through on my feet. So they're saying, look, we'll compensate you if there's any problems or issues. Just let us through. Verse 20, and he said, this is the king of Edom, Thou shalt not go through. And Edom came out against him with much people and with a strong hand. Now, here's something that's important to look at, okay? Moses and the children of Israel have been wandering for 38 years. Okay, they ran into the Edom at the beginning of this whole experience. And now they're running into him again because remember they went into by the promised land before, and then they couldn't go in because they weren't willing to accept have the faith in God that He will help them to obtain the promised land, and so they had to wander for 40 years in the desert. So it's now been 38 years since they were back in this place. Okay, the wandering is done. They've basically got most of that done at this point in the story. And they just need to get past the land of Edom to get to where their land is, that their inheritance is, basically. We just don't have, again, Moses hasn't given us a ton of detail of what happened in those 38 years. We hear of some of the rebellions, we hear some of the challenges, but just a couple things. There's a lot of history of what was going on in that time that we don't know. We don't have a lot of that information. So there's kind of a gap in there for those years of wandering that we don't get a ton of data. All right. Now, verse 21, thus Edom refused to give Israel passage through his border, wherefore Israel turned away from him. And the children of Israel, even the whole congregation, journeyed from Kadesh and came unto Mount Hor, which Kadesh and Hor are both in the Bible dictionary. You can look them up. And the Lord spake unto Moses and Aaron in Mount Hor by the coast of the land of Edom, saying, Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, for he shall not enter into the land which I have given unto the children of Israel, because you rebelled against my word at the water of Meribah. Take Aaron and Eleazar his son, and bring them up unto Mount Hor, and strip Aaron of his garments, and put them upon Eleazar his son. And Aaron shall be gathered unto his people, and shall die there. So Eleazar is made high priest, basically. And Aaron is kind of put into an emeritus status, or allowed to kind of retire from being the high priest, and will just die among his people, die of age, basically, or things. And so verse 27, Moses did as the Lord commanded. They went up into Mount Hor in the sight of all the congregation. Moses stripped Aaron of his garments and put them upon Eleazar his son, and Aaron died there in the top of the mountain. And Moses and Eleazar came down from the mount. So Aaron died in the mountain. Does it mean he just suddenly went, and killed over and died? I don't know. He could have been old. He could have been sick. He could have been having some health problems anyways at this point. And so he just didn't make it through this. You never know. And when all the congregation saw that Aaron was dead, they mourned for Aaron 30 days, even all the house of Israel. So some interesting insights we get as we further the story. It's going to take them a little bit longer to get to the promised land, but they do make it eventually. And we're going to get into that part of the story here pretty soon. Thanks for watching.